本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It is Friday, June 18th, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 403. I'm your host, Austin Walker, joined by Patrick Klepek.
Fresh back from the Flesh Nexus, ready to pod.
Great. Rob Zachney is here.
Reconsidering that.
Yeah, same. Same. We just go anywhere else. Ricardo Contreras also joining us.
You know, I, for one, welcome our new fleshy overlords.
Is that a thing we have? Or are they
I assume the Nexus is coming for us. That's the only thing. I hear Flesh Nexus, and I'm worried.
There's a lot of meat in the world of Death Trash, so you know you kind of just gotta.
I see.
Kind of just gotta find it.
I see. We are. You can hear from my voice that we did E3 this weekend, even though we did, or this past week, even though we didn't really do E3. But we also, there was E3 to come after our live show, and after so many of you came out to watch us on Twitch, and we should probably start today by just going back, turning the clock back a little bit, and talking about the last big event of E3, which we didn't cover on the last episode.
The Capcom Press Spectacular.
I was going to do the Bandai Namco. No one noticed. Yeah, but they said, it seems like they said that up front, but no one really picked up on it, which is like a recurring thing this E3. I saw people like, can't wait for Take-Two's presser, and like, Take-Two has a panel about diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, I saw people are like, I feel like I'm... I didn't watch it, but I saw some of the chatter around it, and it was mostly just like, I feel like I'm sitting in on an actual meeting. It's slightly uncomfortable.
It was like, some beleaguered D&I, diversity and inclusion specialist at Take-Two, like head of D&I probably, who clearly had like pressured the right people into getting her the slot to be like, if we're gonna do fucking E3, I'm gonna do a thing that I care about.
That's cool.
And that is important. It was cool, but it was also a very particular model of diversity and inclusion, which is like rise and grind gamers, like and someone key to Games for Change was there, and Games for Change is a very particular model of like progressivism, or it's not even, I wouldn't even say it's progressivism. It's like it's down to the mat liberalism of like, here's how these things can help you prosper in this world. Here's how games can teach us to make individual actions.
I just mean relative to the commercial
environment. Yes,
propaganda of E3. That is all right to have a little bit of that.
We can find our allies in the trenches. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
but know what it is going into it. Do you know what I mean? Right. Compared to many other showcases, yes, absolutely. But that communication did not come through, I feel.
Well, and no, it's just like, I think they wanted just to be able to say, cynically, it feels like E3 wants to say, yo, we got Take-Two. They're here.
Yeah. Totally.
No BioShock.
And then what happens is a lot of sites that are not read in on what every event is going to be are like, what the fuck do I write in our E3 guide? I guess Take-Two's going to be there. Who's Take-Two? Oh, right, Take-Two. They own 2K Sports. They own Rockstar. Maybe Rockstar will show something. And you write that in your little blog because you got to write something because it's your job to turn in however many, words of content that in that article. You don't want to just publish the schedule. And next thing you know, you have people being like, where's GTA 6? And it's like, GTA has never been announced at a...
announced
E3.
Here at the end. And one more thing, at this diversity panel, we'd like to introduce the first teaser trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6.
Unbelievable.
Why make it Grand Theft Auto 6? You don't have to. I don't. They could just coast on GTA Online for another 20 years and be just fine.
Yep, totally. Okay. We should talk about the thing that we are dancing around. Like, Capcom showed stuff that they had announced they would show. Nothing new. That was fine.
I will say, just
yes,
the one thing about the Capcom was the Resident Evil Village DLC, which I think
that's true.
And what's specifically cool about it is that it seems like it truly, they said, hey, development has just started. And prior to release, they didn't announce a season pass. They didn't do DLC. Like, they were very specific on like, hey, we made the game. Here's the game. And part of that seemed to be a response to the fact that they sort of have like a pretty well-oiled Resident Evil machine up and running where they can release a new one every year. And so you don't necessarily need to do the season sort of like pass model that is kind of sustained AAA games when they're trying to operate 2 or 3 years in between big installments. Because by all accounts, there's supposed to be another, not an RE9, but like a big Resident Evil Revelations 3 equivalent next year. Anyway, it's all to say, I didn't particularly care for the DLC of Resident Evil 7, which really felt like it was developed like before people played the game and you had a good understanding of like, what did people respond to? Like, what did they find interesting? I mean, the fact that, Chris Redfield is the statue inside the RE Village Collector's Edition box probably tells you something about what they thought people were going to respond to in that game. You know what? They were wrong. No one gave a shit about Chris, and people cared much more about the tall vampire lady. And so I'm just glad that if they're going to go down this path, it's happening with like a full perspective of what people enjoyed, didn't enjoy about that game, what they responded to. Doesn't mean the DLC will be good, but it does. I like the fact that it's being made like sort of like concurrent with the fandom as opposed to trying to throw darts at a board or what people are, because you can't know. That's not even necessarily a cynical thing. You just can't really know necessarily what people are going to glom onto, and so I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Totally. So beyond that, the Nintendo Direct was the big one. I think that we just straight up. I guess, Patrick, you and I went over to the Nextlander stream. You can go to the Nextlander YouTube to find us.
That VOD does exist. The call was made to allow that. I guess we should say if you didn't watch it somehow, you missed things like roughly 30 minutes before. Well, this happened a little before that, but maybe an hour or so before the Nintendo Direct was to start. Nintendo of Japan put out a tweet entirely in Japanese, basically saying, translations, yada, yada aside, like, hey, like, don't stream this, like, don't co-stream this, like, this is our thing, stay away. And there was no, like, companion tweet or clarification or statement from Nintendo of America or Nintendo of Europe. It is not uncommon for the Japanese sides of various Japanese companies to take harder lines when it comes to streaming, copyright infringement, let's plays. Like we a lot of Japanese companies do this dance very awkwardly. I like, as an aside, like I remember Atlas specifically in the past has had, like let's plays, copyright stricken by their Japanese arm. And then they're like, hey, let us know. We'll get that lifted, like on the US side. It's like, that's right. Maybe not how that should, I mean, it's because they're operating with bots that like just sweep through and strike that stuff. Anyways, no one was sure quite what to do, to the point where you had Twitch, official Twitch, through like their Twitch gaming channel saying we were going to stream this, now we're not, because it wouldn't make sense for us to stream something that we don't know if the rest of our audience can do anything with. I sent an email to Nintendo, who I was in conversation with regularly about a Metroid Dread event that I was going to be attending that evening, and I was like, hey, like, what's up with this? Can we, like, I'm about to go live. And they're like, yeah, check in with Nintendo. No, nothing came back from Nintendo. My response, which I said public at the time, was I believed this was not miscommunication. This was, the Japanese side of Nintendo doing what they do, along the same lines that a lot of other Japanese sides of these companies frequently do, but that Nintendo of America or Europe did not want to openly contradict that side of the company because they tend to actually follow in their stead and just sort of like massage the other bits where they can, and that nobody was going to see any legal repercussions. But I didn't blame folks for not wanting to take on that liability, to the point where it's like, well, we decided not to actually stream it out ourselves. We had Nextlander host it, and then we, at like the last possible second, it was like, all right, whatever you guys want to do,
let's turn it on.
Vice is more or less kind of told me they'd prefer we didn't post it ourselves to avoid legal liability, because corporations are skittish about that stuff. But as I predicted, nobody got like banged up with anything, and it was all kind of just Nintendo trying to get to the other side of the Direct and be like, oh great, we got that over with, we're not, nothing's gonna happen, to the point where I like followed up afterwards in the same email chain where I was trying to get clarification on this, and also like getting like details about embargoes of a Metroid Dread thing. I was like, hey, what's the deal? Can I get some sort of formal statement? Like, what happened here? Skip over that. Go to a different part of the email chain. Nintendo responds with, and here's your details about the Metroid Dread embargo. I was like, oh, okay. I see. And this is coming from like this person I was talking to is like a PR person I've known for decades. And I was like I know it's
trust.
I know it's, you're not, you saw my email. So anyway, that's the setup.
You can just miss that.
Yeah. I get what you're putting down. I won't pick it up again. I get it. The message is taken. You're not going to respond to this.
And then we got what I think is a damn good Nintendo Direct.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
I think all the way through, really cool stuff for a lot of different folks. So a couple of absences, like I said on that stream, no Animal Crossing stuff. So if you're the beleaguered Animal Crossing fan, you at this point must feel like you're just on the loop. And
welcome to being a Mario Maker fan. Isn't it nice when Nintendo selectively and oddly chooses its live service games to support? Splatoon. Splatoon gets everything. Multiple years, detailed patch notes explaining what's going on. But if you're an Animal Crossing fan, a Mario Maker fan, bye-bye. Like,
these runes run deep. Wow. Damn.
Yeah, they do. Specifically because Nintendo treats their fandoms differently in ways that are not, like, they just don't add up. Like, Animal Crossing seems like it should be.
You certainly don't get the sort of incredible trailers that Super Smash Brothers gets when new characters are added.
No!
Fucking Kazuya dragging out the bodies of various Smash characters to throw into a volcano over and over again.
Very good.
This is very good. Highlight, obviously. They opened on that. Kazuya from Tekken is coming to Smash. Kazuya rules. Kazuya's terrible. He rules. That'll be a fun character to add.
Yeah.
Then we got a bunch of stuff that's like, a bunch of stuff is coming to Switch. You already know all this stuff. The Life is Strange games, 2 Point Campus. I guess Guardians of the Galaxy, which will be cloud streaming on Switch, is like an interesting news item. But
Go ahead. You go ahead. It seems to speak to the fact that they sort of, Nintendo is recognizing that they're going to have to start approving more publishers to, Hitman came out earlier this year on cloud streaming, but whatever Switch Pro comes along is not going to suddenly make it commiserate with, a lot of these consoles. And so I'm not surprised that they're just going to sort of rip the Band-Aid off on this and let more folks do that, which is smart. And that stuff works well enough that if the Switch is what you have, like, it'll be a totally fine experience.
I'd say also worth noting in that big kind of block of games that were just announced is Fatal Frame Made into Blackwater, which was a Wii U Fatal Frame game that also was coming out elsewhere, not just on Switch. But that came through this.
So Nintendo took control of the Fatal Frame franchise in the Wii era. Like, just, this is ours now. Like, we're like, and then
made those partnership deals, basically. They didn't literally buy it. They just...
No, I can't remember, but it became a Nintendo exclusive.
Right.
And then they just stopped, they scooped up Fatal Frame and then stopped releasing the Fatal Frame games outside of Japan. Just said, what would be great if we took this renowned horror IP and it's ours now, and we're one of the biggest companies in the world, but also it's only going to come out in this one region. Very odd, but I don't know what they were doing with a horror IP in the first place.
In the first place, yeah. That game came out to Wii U here. It just came out late, and then that was kind of it, if I recall. Oh well. Anyway, that's out now. That game, it's not out now. Sorry, but it's being remastered for Switch and then some other stuff. I remember thinking that game was okay, maybe not as good as the earlier Fatal Frame games that I'd played. But not opposed to that dropping. And then I think. Then we got into some of the more exciting things, so like new titles from Nintendo or exclusive to Nintendo stuff. New Super Monkey Ball, Banana Mania. I saw someone float the idea that Mania could become Sega's new word for like retro, like bringing back a franchise in that way, because we got Sonic Mania a few years ago. Are we going to end up getting Phantasy Star Mania? Are we going to end up getting Shining Force Mania? Who could say?
Shining Force.
Super Mario Party Superstars is a Mario Party game that just has a lot of old Mario Party minigames. That was my read on that. Is if I missed anything about that, then I'm sorry, but I think that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
I'm going to do other smaller things. We already knew Mario Golf was going to be there, obviously. We already knew Monster Hunter Stories 2 was going to be there. Another thing that had already been announced, but we got some gameplay, especially in the Treehouse segment with Shin Megami Tensei 5. That protagonist looks sick as hell. I mean, all of the characters look sick as hell. It just two hot people of different types of hot people touch hands like Adam and the Creator, and then they become a third new type of hot person. Yeah. And then they fight and or negotiate with demons. It looks sick. I'm excited for that.
I also really enjoyed that. I mean, everyone gets horny for everyone these days, but there was seemed to be like a large sort of like, well, who gets to be horny for this character? Like, is this
everybody?
Is this everybody a dude? Is this a girl?
Shut the fuck up.
The Persona series are often have androgynous characters, and then everyone just decided, who cares what they are? We're all hot for them. If you were
attracted to this person, you are valid 100%. I don't give a fuck.
So everyone in the world,
the Olive Garden of horniness.
Yes. In any case, other shit. We already saw Mario and Rabbids, was kind of like the same trailer, and now I think we can get into some of the newest, all the shit that is like truly like what. Metroid Dread. You already mentioned it.
What?
Metroid Dread.
Another fucking Metroid game, a real Metroid game.
A real. Do you mean Metroid 5? Is that what it stands for? Or say Metroid 4? Yeah, I can't recall.
No, this is Metroid 5. They're
5. Yeah.
I didn't quite realize that the Metroid series sort of like characterized itself in that way, where there are a handful I guess there are certain Metroid games that like introduce themselves as 1, 2, 3, 4.
Fusion
and then
was
everything,
4, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just a side story, but these are sort of like the main not timeline, but like the main plot thread of the series, which is kind of, it's just that's just an interesting little weird part about that series that actually I like quite a bit.
I like that I like that they've always been a cross-platform, because Metroid is NES and Metroid 2 is a Game Boy game. Is Return to Samus, and then Super Metroid on the SNES and Fusion on the is that Advanced? Is that GBA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Advanced. And now
Dread. Yeah, a lot of people I know love Fusion. So shout outs to y'all. Congrats. Congrats to all the Metroid lovers, all the Samus stands out there.
That's me. Also, the real Dread is someone tweeting at you and saying, "Hey Patrick, here's a link to an article you wrote 16 years ago saying Metroid Dread is canceled." And that I just sunk into the floor, never to appear again.
The real Dread is being confronted with the passage of time.
Yeah, 16 years.
16 years is a long time.
I read all those comments. I
read all the comments.
I feel like that's not an L at that point.
It's not an L. It's just part of it is so much of my early identity as a writer was like, look at he's been doing this since he was 14. Like, he's so young. So to be confronted with, well, 16 is just a teenager. You're a whole ass person later that you can like write about decades old canceled pitch docs that have been revived is
one man's journey to report on video games for over 16 years. I read all the comments on that piece, on that blog post.
Shame on people it was kind of a shame on people tracking down people on Twitter and adding them.
They do that?
What?
No,
it turns out that there was someone who was a little shitty and clearly probably 17 in the post, and then they found them on Twitter and they seem to be doing just fine. So good for.
I'm glad everyone's commented on that thing, even the people who were being assholes 16 years ago. I hope their lives are better. But it was funny, the people who were like, "You're just making this up. How can I trust you at all? How they never even announced this game? How could they canceled it?" Anyway, Metroid Dread looks sick. It's a side scroller. It is, it's a 3D. It's a polygonal game, but it is a 2D traditional Metroid game. You're exploring, a facility. You're being chased by these very cool looking robots called Emmys. I love the suit. The Samus suit in this is incredible. It's this nice blend of white, this kind of like metallic teal, and then the traditional, orange on the headpiece.
The
on the
Fusion
helmet.
Suit is dope as well, which is that started the hey, let's be a little more Samus, mix it up. Put some
Fusion is all about bioorganic or biomechanical shit, right?
Parasites and shit. That's where I'm really glad that we saw the Emmys, this kind of creature that's chasing you that you can't really kill unless you have a specific thing. Because that was one of my favorite parts of Fusion. They had a parasite that would transform into Samus, and there was an evil Samus running around that station, that would block your progress. So good. And so, it's really cool to see that come back in this one, and the kind of twists that they've done. Because when you look back at the way they used that in Fusion, it ended up being a very scary door. It was ultimately just a door, and once you met one, the only option was to run, and it was a scary sequence, especially as a kid. But in this one, it feels like there's a little bit more of that chase element where you can choose different paths or kind of loop around the Emmys and things like that. There's a little bit more to
stealth. You can kind of interact with them, and they, I was in a private meeting with Sakamoto, the kind of series producer for a number of decades now. And people kept trying to pick away at so what's the deal? Why'd this get canceled before it was in production? And according to an Easter egg in Metroid Prime 3 that said Project Dread is nearing completion. So it's they managed to put it into a game, an Easter egg saying yo, that game's almost done. And the game is released months later. So to get that through suggests that game got pretty far along in production on the DS. And Sakamoto wasn't I'm sure he's a nice person, but he's a terrible interview. He's it's very difficult to get a lot of quotes out of. The answers are always very vague. Japanese interviews are difficult. I've talked about that in the past, but he in particular is a challenge to get really good quotes out of. And so people kept coming around to different versions of so what's the why why revisit? And the best I could sort of surmise from a lot of the dancing around it was kind of alluding to what you were saying, Cado, how if you're going to introduce a scary AI character that's supposed to be a kind of a nemesis, sort of a chase type, the gimmick was kind of given up pretty quickly in that game because there just wasn't much for them to be able to program the character to do.
Right.
Whereas in this, you can see 16 years later, 3D, higher specs. There's just more you can do with the AI enemies, and so you can actually make them intimidating and scary. And also, you have all these different mechanics where they can kind of get up on you, and you have to hit the B button to counter them at the last second so that you don't die. I guess that's the impression I was left with, was that when they were trying to figure out a way to make that work, that's kind of the wall they kept butting into. So that a large parts of this game are probably maybe not exact, but thematically similar to what they were going for, but that they were finally able to sort of kind of create the enemy AI in a way that made them satisfied for how they wanted to approach it. I would definitely recommend people check out, if you watch the Nintendo Direct stream, go watch the high res YouTube archives. There is a nuance to the art style that is definitely not present in the compressed stream. And so if you go watch the high quality version of that, it looks sharper than even the impression I was given watching that on the Direct.
Likewise, if you want to see more of it, you can watch the Treehouse streams. There's 2 Metroid Dread Treehouse playthroughs. Obviously, if you're a serious fan, I could also understand not wanting to see anything else about this game until it comes out. But from what I saw from those streams, they looked very good.
I'm also
go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm also really excited about the movement stuff that has changed. Movement in Metroid games has always been this kind of slow ramp up of you're really slow at the beginning, but then you get movement abilities that let you kind of zoom through old stuff as you backtrack, which was always a really smart design. That started kind of in Super Metroid, mostly with the Uber Dash or whatever. I forget what it's actually.
Run, whatever that's called. Yeah.
But now in general, the whole thing is faster, and you have this melee ability that kind of let you you can keep moving, and it's kind of a dash forward too. which I think is interesting. And so I'm curious to see whether
also
or not that
counter, right?
Yeah. There's like one if you're like getting hit, you can like counter it things. And so I'm curious to see how the ramp up from that feels. Like, do you get even faster than that? Is there a super run still? Like, that'll be interesting to see. But I'm really
turn
curious
into a ball.
Like. No, you slide.
There's the slide, which is cool. I like the fact that I think that's a smart design choice from a like momentum perspective, because often, if you're building a game around like enemies chasing you, like having to turn into the ball, and then like it was more difficult to maintain the momentum, like from standing to ball to go forward than it is to do the slide. So my guess is that mechanic still exists. It will just be, they've just kind of like formed it under something else. And also this seeing all this just makes me mad that when that the very well liked Metroid 2 remake that the same team, Mercury Steam, did some years back for the 3DS, like that was the point where I feel like it came out around the time the Switch did. Like I might be getting the timeline slightly mixed up in my head, but
it was out. I remember thinking like, why isn't this on the Switch or something? Or why did it make the jump?
And I didn't play it, and probably would have.
Yeah, exactly.
I think right, and because I think that was the point where I've got my Switch. You know where my 3DS charging cable is? Who knows? Like that has been lost to time. But playing this
September 2017 is when Samus Returns drops.
Right. Yeah. So that is post Switch, firmly in. Well, of course they'll just re-release this on Switch. I don't need to play this now. They're clearly not going to do that. Because DS games are just more of a understandably a challenge. But boy,
that was a beautiful port though. Like that was a gorgeous game, and it's just weird they never did
anything.
Yeah.
This whole series, I said this on that stream with Nextlander, is one of the things that I like on my shame lists, because I've never played a Metroid game.
Whoa.
When I was a kid, when they were first coming out on the NES, the SNES, Game Boy, I like went over my babysitter's house. I've said this before, but I had a babysitter whose brother was way into games. I mean, the whole family played games, but like that was like one of my early video game people who taught me what video games were and like showed me a bunch of different games. And there's someone who ended up like buying a Neo Geo and blah blah blah, right? Worked at the EB at the mall, like all that stuff, right? And when he was playing, I want to say Super Metroid, but I don't know if that age lines up to when I would have been at a babysitter still. I started staying home alone, just pretty, not as soon as I could, but like, my mom trusted me when I was pretty young because I was a good kid. But maybe it was the original Metroid, and just being scared out of my mind at the strange alien atmosphere, the music, all of it. And so as a kid, I just like, I placed it in that category of game that wasn't for me. And then by the time people were talking about Metroid Prime, and stuff, like, one, I didn't have a GameCube. I've never owned a GameCube. And two, I felt like I couldn't play any of them without going back to the beginning and playing through everything. And so now I'm like, I'm just going to probably play this. It's fine. I get it.
Yeah.
I've seen these games, so many times at this point. Prime is the series that I wish they would just release a Metroid Prime collection for me to play all of those, because
I think it may be the case that, you'll get, different, like, and I am a big Metroid,
I'm sure I'll get different responses here.
Well, people say, oh, but you have to go play, and it's like, my guess is Dread, like, unless you play Dread and you go, you have that response of, oh shit, this has my hooks in me so much that I need to
genre.
Play. Well, that's what I mean.
Right.
So that's part, that is part of the issue, I think, of where Metroid Dread will inevitably scratch a Metroid style itch, but also there are so many other games that scratch that itch that it doesn't. One, that's part of the reason probably that they don't make them as often as they do, because like the ecosystem is fed by so many other games that it makes some level of sense to only release one of these like in a great long time, so they stand out, given that like it's the rare game that made like a genre to the point where people just named it after it because they couldn't come up with a better naming scheme. But the Prime series is so fundamentally different while retaining a lot of the DNA that I played 1 and 3 are like games I adored. I bounced off of 2 as like when I was younger because it was a more challenging game, and I don't know, for some reason I just didn't get into it, but I've always wanted to go back and play that second one, and because those really are just such a unique, watching them so successfully do what they did with like a Mario or a Zelda, where it's like, oh wow, like you did it, like you brought it here. And it's different, but also it's a really wonderful series from top to bottom.
See, but what if I instead just throw myself at Metroid and become a Metroid guy overnight?
Yeah.
What if I spend a year?
You throw yourself at Metroid. I'm gonna throw myself at Kirby, and we'll just meet on the other side.
Are you playing Kirby?
Yeah,
I'm thinking about it.
Hell yeah!
You've never been a Kirby person.
No, I've like played a couple of Kirby games, but then I watched 5 minutes of a Kirby lore video and went, all right, you've whet my appetite. What if I just started from scratch?
Yeah.
Because it was born out of me asking if the Ratchet and Clank games were like one of the longest, was it one of the longest running like platforming action yada yada series that took its mythology seriously. And there were a lot of people holding up their hands and say, hey, pump the brakes.
Sir,
you have not looked into the Kirby franchise, and
I'll have you know, sir.
I mean, there were
Kirby. You gotta put some respect on Sakurai's name.
That's Iwata.
Oh, I thought
that is Iwata.
Didn't he take over it though? Take it over after the originals? Because
I don't think so.
He works.
Oh no, you're right. Sakurai. No, Kado's right because this is part of.
So we're both right.
No, I don't know that Iwata. I think
wasn't he part of HAL like originally? Like part of Kirby?
I think that the creator of Kirby was Sakurai because whenever it comes up in relation to Smash, it's like Sakurai has such a fan, loves his creation, Kirby. Okay. That's a recurring thing.
Also
because right here.
Also because Kirby is the most powerful being in the Nintendo universe and can never be killed.
Right, but I know that is implied in the Smash video, but that is also where my curiosity into the lore comes from. Because yes, like there are, I'm gonna get it wrong. Stay away from me, like Kirby lore enthusiasts. I'm new. I will get there. But yes, there are like lots of implications about like elder gods and Kirby being like a primordial being. And this is like all like not like people having fun, but like it's just like spelled out in like various games, and so. I don't know. Yeah,
Kirby's Dream Land original was designed by Masahiro Sakurai. Yeah,
there you go.
Yep.
I think Iwata was company head at the time of HAL, right? And so that's what
I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Apparently he was apparently he was a programmer on Dreamland.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So we're getting closer.
But like the design,
right? But
the
just,
designer, the
just
creator
in different ways.
Was the designer creator of Kirby was Sakurai. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, there you go. Shout outs to both
we
Sakurai
endorse
and Iwata.
our Turf theory here.
Yeah,
there can only
exactly.
be one.
There's only be one of them.
Who made Kirby?
I'm sure there's an old Iwata asks about Kirby that is great to read. I'm sure there's a bunch actually because
I've been meaning to buy that book.
Me too. For people who don't know, Iwata Asks was a series of interviews that Iwata did when Iwata was
when he was
president of the company?
Yeah.
Okay. Where he would just talk to the developers behind games coming out, or people who'd been at the company for years, and all of those conversations are just incredible because he had a great love for the process of making games. And what a passing, what a loss.
Such a rare position where he's like he comes from line development, and also is the head of the company, and so like you're never going to have conversations like that again in this industry. Like Iwata was a suit, but also like came from like the development side. So it's just I wish there were more figures like that.
Yeah, it gives me goosebumps to think about his arc and about his work and the loss of having someone like the era that he presided over in Nintendo is so strong and so unique because of the type of guidance he was able to give that company and like allow people to take weird risks with game design. I don't know that we see. I don't know that we see some of the stuff that Nintendo's done over the last decade without, even without like the lasting legacy of his work. getting choked up thinking about Iwata. I would close this window so I don't look at these old Iwata asks anymore. Other Nintendo stuff.
We cry.
Yeah, right. We should keep moving because we talked a lot about Metroid Dread. Wait, did you actually see it? Was that playable? Was that
no?
It was not a Nintendo like solution.
No. In fact, like they like deeply annoyed at like they did it over Zoom or like very clear, like so compression can't go faster than 30 frames a second. Please could you full screen it? Please God, please full screen it on your monitor. Like don't put it in a window. Yeah. No, I didn't see too much other than what people had seen through Treehouse. If you want Maddie Myers did a write-up of like the best parts of the like Sakamoto quotes. If you go Google,
shout out to Maddie.
Her name over at Polygon, she wrote. I saw her publish that this morning. So if you want and there's not a whole lot else to say other than I guess the last thing we could before we move on is that what's interesting is that they have said this is going to be maybe not definitively till the end of time, but they want to bring to a close the like Metroid like creature saga. Like that is going to end with Metroid Dread, implying that Metroid Prime 4 will be something different. And whatever Metroid 6,
those are prequels technically.
Yeah, but I guess it would be sort of odd to like, hey, announce like we're done with these Metroids, get them out of here. Metroid Prime 4. You know who's back? Actually, that'd be a very Nintendo thing to do. Yeah. Would be to say we're done with these Metroids, except
we were talking about the other Primes before, and I just kept thinking, I hope that part of the reason for is taking a while is that they're secretly remaking 1 through 3 for the Switch. Like
they're not
ahead of time. I know they're
no, stop.
I wish.
There's no way.
It's because they canceled the game and started over.
Right.
And that Switch like remaster at best is just sitting. Like one of the things that Nintendo does these days is they finish things and sit on them. And so this Metroid Dread, like the file size is already out. That game seems to be done. Like they're just sitting on it till October.
Right.
So that's just. No, they're not doing. No.
Imagine a world.
You see what they did to Mario 64? Nothing. Yeah. Jack shit. Like they.
I wouldn't even mind. Don't do anything. Just release it on a thing I could play today.
Yeah, imagine a world in which other game companies put themselves in the position to like budget and pace themselves so that they could sit on a finished release for months instead of having everyone work down to the nail. Like,
well, let's not. I don't know anything about Nintendo's process. There's nothing to suggest that they couldn't be doing both.
True, they could be doing both. You're right. They could be doing both.
They have to hit that arbitrary deadline that it's X months before the release.
Yeah, absolutely. WarioWare Get It Together, new WarioWare game. Hyped on that multiplayer. I think co-op. Is it co-op or is it multiplayer? Are you competing? Because they did a WarioWare where you competed at least once, right? That was the Wii one, I want to say, had like Smooth Moves, had like a competitive mode. So I'm not sure, but whatever. I'm just happy. More WarioWare. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. That's gonna be fun.
That seems really fun. We'll have to do that the next time we're all together. We'll have to play WarioWare together. That's
when was the release for that?
September 10th.
Great.
Danganronpa Decadence, which seems to be like a collection of it's like a collection of the first 3 editions of the series, and then also an extended version of a board game of Danganronpa, which is very funny to me.
Sure, for the fans.
Sure, yes. I'm waiting for Rob to be back for this next one. Rob stepped away for a second. Rob is back. We also had Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp.
Yeah.
Advance War fans
from Way Forward.
Yeah, from Way Forward, which is shout outs to Way Forward, I guess. I don't
like
know.
How you said that and then immediately pulled back. Like shout outs to Way Forward.
Yeah, I thought through it a little bit. Way Forward is a company that like I feel like in the early 2000s through the mid like the early 2010s, there was a lot of like this company does 2D art really well.
Yeah, the Shantae games like filled a void when there weren't a lot. Like I mean that series goes back to the Game Boy Color.
I never played these games, so like why am I saying shout out when like I don't know. But shout out to I did play Advance Wars 1 and 2.
Yeah,
and it seems given their propensity for good 2D animation that Way Forward could make a good one of these, or a good remake these. Well, are any of us Advance Wars people besides have played these games besides me?
Yeah, I played.
Rob, I really want you to try some Advance Wars. Yeah, Cado, you can speak to it. That like there is, it sits in a weird place, I think, mechanically among tactical, strategy games, because it's small maps compared to a lot of things. Right. It's a single board basically. I guess some of them will on a small monitor, on a handheld, you'll move the camera around, obviously.
Yeah.
But they're still, even in that sense, very legible and small and like concept driven. This is the one with a river and 2 bridges or something like that, right?
And the scale is like, it's like above Into the Breach, but below a lot of like XCOM sized levels or anything like that, right? It's kind of interesting in between. And also the ranges,
unlike XCOM. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say like but then also like it's kind of surprising sometimes the ranges that certain long range stuff can hit from. Like it'll actually be like there are mountains represented in the game that you can definitely shoot over with certain artillery, even if you're not on top of, which is
totally.
The terrain stuff is interesting.
It's a really interesting and idiosyncratic game in compared to, I think, other kind of tactics games. It's tile based. Tiles have different environmental effects. So, like if you're in the woods, you get a percentage to reduce. You get like a defense bonus, and then certain types of weapons do better against other types of weapons, right? So, if you have infantry and you're facing off against, any sort of armor, you're not going to do particularly well unless it's anti-tank infantry. And then you're going to benefit if you hit first. Like the core thing about this game is 2 units fight and they exchange fire. When the first unit fires, it's at full strength. And so it does its full, it's at, if they're both at 10 out of 10 health, it's at full strength. It does damage. That weakens the second one by taking units out of it. And so then when it fires back, it's doing less damage back. Exactly. It's one of those, right? Yeah. And so it's a lot of setting up those attacks, trying to goad your enemy into getting a little closer to you. I will say it is one of the rare tactics games that feels like you're playing against another player historically for me, because the AI is able to make smart decisions about what it's doing, because it's such a tile-based, codified, here's what an optimal play looks like thing. And in fact, I would say the AI can sometimes be harsher than a real player, because real players make mistakes or get ideas, capital I ideas, and try to pull some shit off. And often that doesn't work because they're playing into the open or whatever. I think that these games are really fun. I'm glad that people are going to get a chance to play them. I hope it means a new one of these is coming.
There's also your commander abilities that can kind of swing things a bit wilder than I feel like a lot of tactics games allow for, like, because they're usually map spanning instead of tied to a single unit or a single like area.
But also the thing about them that's so interesting is like, that's the only thing. That's like the only thing that really separates out your like faction. I mean, I don't. Are there? Does like Black Hole have unique? Black Hole has some unique.
There are
like units and stuff, right?
Each commander has passives too.
Right. But that's what I mean. It's like the commander is the thing that separates one group of infantry from another group of infantry. But this is not a Fire Emblem game where you have. A bunch of super distinct characters.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? Black Hole would be the one that would have
special
some
stuff.
unique. Yeah. Because I mean, that's narrative most of the time, right? That like, they are the ones with the super weapons, the strange, sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things that's interesting is you're making units on many maps because you're capturing warehouses and producing units in a lot of maps. And so it takes on an RTS flavor in that way, where you're trying to like maintain not just parts of the control of the map, but also maintain production facilities. You are
just control of like cities. I forget exactly what they give you, but like there's obviously some maps are just like you have to capture a certain amount of cities and hold them or things, but there's also like a part of a resource management thing there too.
They give you money. That's the thing that they give you.
Yeah.
And also they if you rest someone in the city, they get repaired and I want to say refueled. Yeah, totally.
The refueling thing is a thing that I remember being particularly interesting in that game, just because like you could run out of gas in a car and you would have to send out another unit with I think the APCs could refuel or something. I forget which.
I think it's APCs
could refuel other, which was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay out here because I know I can finish this last thing, but next turn I'm gonna be stuck. You know, that was always an interesting tension with those games.
I really love these games. My favorite is Days of Ruin, which is I know the one that people don't like because it's grim, dark, post-apocalyptic. But I think a lot of I remember thinking that they rebalanced stuff in some really smart ways, introduced some really cool new kind of vehicles and stuff like that, including like these fighters that they were just like World War II fighters that would do strafing runs. They were really fun. They were really cool. They were like really bad against anti-air, but they were really good at taking down other like flying vehicles. Like they could help you knock out a bomber or something like that. And then also just like doing strafing runs on infantry was just like very cool. And felt like you weren't wasting a turn, unlike when you try to use a bomber on infantry or something, you know? Anyway, I like that series a lot. I'm really glad it's getting remade. The thing I was going to say before is, while I do want there to be a new one of these, I also think there is something sort of wise in recognizing that making one of these where this is not an XCOM game where you are generating maps procedurally and then relying on interesting, sections of those maps that get kind of plopped together to each have coherency and blah, blah, blah. This is a game of authored tactical situations and being like, okay, the first one of these we make is going to rely on these classic maps. This 1 and 2 already has great design. Let's lean on that and play that. And let people play those games because we stand by that design already, rather than creating a new one of these, the first new one since Days of Ruin, which was I want to say 2007, and like missing because that would have been a big swing. Maybe it was 2008.
Dual Strike afterwards, or was Days of Ruin after Dual Strike?
I think Days of Ruin was the most recent one. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll double check. No, Days of Ruin's the most recent one. Dual Strike was 2005. Days of Ruin was 2008.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that I mean, yeah, it is what it is. People think Days of Ruin ended that franchise. Oh well, it was good. Anyway, let's keep on moving. We're rolling through it. Skyward Sword stuff, Age of Calamity, Hyrule Warriors DLC. Okay, I want the Zelda Game & Watch that they announced. This little Game & Watch with Zelda 1, 2, and Link's Awakening. That looks very cute and good. And then Breath of the Wild 2 got a more not lengthy, but a gameplay demo trailer.
Oh, right? you mean the one where you play as Ganondorf and there's no weapon durability, right? They announced that stuff.
They didn't. I know if you saw just Twitter discourse, you might think that was announced.
No, I fell into an alternate timeline. It was like 2016, 2016. And then or as you put it, it's 2016 but louder.
Dude. It's just, I get it that people have strong feelings about it. I think it's the sign of a important and good game that people feel strongly about systems. I also sometimes think people don't know why they bounced off a thing and want to find a silver bullet single solution for why they bounced off a thing. I think a thing that I will say out loud again is, let me repeat my old discourse. I was shocked when people liked this game. I played this game and was like, this is a little treat for Austin Walker. The ways in which this is not a Zelda game, people are going to hate this. But by and large, people responded well to it. A lot of people, critics especially, responded extremely well to it. I really like it. And of course, I'm very excited for the sequel. In this, there's like a 1.5-minute long trailer that shows a bunch of stuff that I understand why it produces the effect of like theorizing and theory crafting and like what is going on here. What are we looking at? In raw terms, what we see a lot of here is, one, Link is skydiving and gliding from between islands in the sky, which obviously with Skyward Sword.
That sure seems to imply that
some sort of connection, whether that connection is literal or thematic or figurative, who could say? We know that Link now has is doing magic powers, not with the Sheikah Slate, but with some sort of magic arm. His right arm has either a glove or a different arm situation.
Full Metal
which
Alchemist.
I guess Full Metal Alchemist. And is doing stuff like rewinding time, it looks like, maybe with this, or maybe just throwing this spike ball really far. We see some new enemy types or some combinations of enemy types, like the stone, what they call stone taluses. Is that what they were called in the original? But now there's like a I think that's right, with a bokoblin camp on top of it.
That was good.
Some fun. Weird underground cave stuff. Link got a flamethrower briefly. And we see
just his arm,
time rewind. No, it's the other arm.
Oh, really?
It's not. Okay. It's like a shield. You can see him hold it. You can see his hand if you go frame by frame.
Yeah.
His other arm is the arm that seems to have magic shit going on.
Right.
And then there's a bit where Link is a little puddle of water, I think, and then time rewinds, and then he gets sucked upwards through a stone floor on one of these sky islands.
So I don't through the cracks, I
guess so.
Maybe he's water.
Yeah, exactly. Though also, if you actually look at that trailer, it's not necessarily clear that the puddle becoming the droplet is connected to the next shot, which is him going up through the thing.
Unrelated and just like the mat, like
there is a water effect. There is a water effect when he comes through the top of the stone.
Right,
floor.
the little beep.
So I suspect the first of those is a cutscene explaining some time shenanigans and how this power works, and the second is an actual use case in the game. The Sky Islands look really pretty. There's lots of like autumnal leaves. It looks like the autumnal place from Breath of the Wild. And then we end on a sequence in which the Hyrule Castle gets lifted up out of the ground with evil red calamitous energies, and then just kind of hovers there as we look out across Hyrule Field. And it's the same shot as the final shot in that initial Breath of the Wild trailer, I think, or maybe it was a follow-up trailer of just the field, this kind of sublime and terrible thing, which I thought was great. And 2022 is what it was noted as. From all of that, I think, again, I'm eliding a lot because of the nature of doing a summary of a trailer in a podcast, but like musically, there are touches of Twilight Princess here, right? I think tonally, as before, there are touches of both Skyward Sword and of a little bit of the darkness in Twilight Princess, the strangeness of Majora's Mask or something. Also, I guess I should say, in a lot of the Sky segments, Link has different hair. Link's hair is like long and unruly.
Yeah.
What I will remind people of, okay, let me slow down again. A lot of people have read into that stuff very definitively. There are threads going around where like, well, obviously you're playing as Ganon in the sky, and that takes place in the past. You're playing as Ganon, who was the first hero of light, and da-da-da-da-da. And there is a confidence that these people, I wish I had a shred of that confidence. Well, I'm not confident in things I know.
Nintendo invites this. Like they do this on purpose.
And it's fun. It's fun. The other thing is, it is fun to theorize. I'm 100%.
And it's the only series
But guard your hearts. Guard your hearts.
Right. Yeah. But like, they've established timelines. They've established divergent timelines. Like it's the one time Nintendo, who otherwise whole cloth, and still in Zelda, because of the nature of time, will just throw things away in whole cloth and be like, divergent timeline. Like that just lets us do whatever we want. But they take it seriously enough, and they do the like hidden things in the background that I find this part delightful. Like I don't care one way or the other if we're Ganondorf or just Link again. I'm like you. I tend to think, follow the evidence. What have we done before? Probably going to be what we do again. Link. At the same time, like I'm out here looking at the 20-minute YouTube video as well and be like, yeah, that does seem pretty good.
They didn't Hyrule Historia came out before Breath of the Wild, right? Or
correct.
Okay,
and it is not
on the timeline at all.
If I recall, Breath of the Wild is quote unquote at the end of the chronology. He does not say which. which is very funny. I'm going to double check that.
All roads
I think
lead to the wild.
Well, I don't think that's the thing is like I don't know that it is that, but
it's absolutely.
I don't know that they reconverge. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But it very much could be the end of one of the split timelines. I mean, for people who don't know, you could just do a search for Zelda timeline and find the page from the Hyrule Historia that breaks down what is the situation, and the break is at Ocarina of Time. After Ocarina of Time, like Skyward Sword, some portable games, Ocarina of Time. That part is straightforward. Games. Minish Cap, 4 Swords. I'm not talking about. Okay, I believe you. I've not played Minish Cap.
Oh, it's real good.
I'm not. Yeah. It's not. Yeah, listen. At that point, based on whether you win or lose at the end, and based on, I want to say, based on the child timeline and the adult timeline are different timelines in the win.
Defeated, successful, and then child era or adult era.
Right.
Under successful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so like under child era is Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. Under successful era under adult era is Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, right?
Yeah.
The Toon Link continuum versus the Kid Link continuum, I guess. I know it's weird that it would be split in that way, but and then the Heroes Defeated is like the NES game Link's Awakening, Oracle of Ages and Seasons, The Legend of Zelda, The Adventures of Link, right? And so it's fun. I think that stuff is fun, but I'm reticent to believe that we'll get any sort of. I think we'll get hints on the way these things are connected, the way that I don't remember, why am I forgetting the name of the sword in I guess the real one is like the Moonlight Great Sword shows up across Dark Souls games, or the sword from this happened to me this weekend. This is very upsetting to me. The Storm Ruler, is that the name of the sword? I'm googling it. Yes, the Storm Ruler shows up across both Dark Souls and Demon Souls, right? And like, well, are these the same sword? Well, no, but are they? Are they? And obviously this is more connected than that, but I think we'll get those sorts of hints. The way, for instance, the Rito maybe changed over time compared to where they are in past games from here. The ways in which they're connected to other groups, but I don't know that we'll get. I'm not particularly confident that we'll get big lore dump about the truth of all of the Zelda timeline. I have like a 5% confidence rate that we'll see like even a segment where we change playable characters. I know a lot of people want long hair Link to be Ganon or to be Zelda. I've seen people theorize that the clips in this trailer where you're just looking at Link in the traditional Breath of the Wild Guardian gear, the blue shirt, the blue tunic, that's actually going to end up being Zelda, and they're just using the default coloration so that you can da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, again, guard your hearts. You're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
Nintendo, Breath of the Wild, to me, I said this to somebody else the other day, felt like a team already finding all of the loopholes they could to shake up a series. And I think there are some things that are just, I feel like they've basically said you will play as Link in the Legend of Zelda series. They're very conservative in terms of that part of the narrative design of these games. And as much as I want them to take a big swing, as much as I want you play as Zelda and Ganon game, because of course I do. Of course that's the version of this that I want. I am not particularly confident that is what we'll see. So I don't know. 2022, that game is out next year theoretically. When? Who could say? You think we get a Switch Pro before this?
Yes.
Yeah, same.
I think Nintendo doesn't. I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast. Like, their internal philosophy is not that they need a big game tied to a new piece of hardware, because they know you'll show up for both. Those are two separate events. So I think that the Switch Pro, whatever it's called, will arrive probably sometime later this year. And then I would imagine that Breath of the Wild 2 is sometime in that springish time frame, that gives them a lot of wiggle room for, it could be as late as, E3 next year, as early as March, which is that would be the 5th anniversary of the Switch if they hit March.
Is that true? I think that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Whoops.
So,
man, that first time I played Breath of the Wild, I don't know that I've ever had such an experience playing a video game. So nice. Anyway, that's the Nintendo event. We should take a break. I'm excited about it. I think it's a great event. Yeah. I think E3 was weird this year. It's fair to say. I think the highlights for me were largely indie games from shows like Guerrilla Collective and Day of the Devs and the Wholesome Direct and some other stuff. I really liked the Future of Play event, which is only like 18 minutes long. People should go watch that one. And that stuff was all really cool. I'm glad that today, I guess as of this 2 days ago, the Steam Next Fest is happening.
Yeah, you think at one point we could have
we get it right.
So confident.
Get that name right.
And the one thing I'll say, I think E3 is a decrepit, version of itself or whatever it was before. But I think things like Wholesome Direct and others, like they rode a wave of interest and got more attention to a bunch of games that those things would have attracted audiences, regardless. Like that happens when you get people together doing a thing collectively. But like however we think of E3, I think it's cool that they managed to ride that and get more attention to a bunch of games that deserve that attention and may not have gotten the same level of it otherwise. So like if that's the one like capital G good thing that happened during all of this, like that a bunch of cool games got wishlisted a little more than they would have, that's all right with me.
Which has a knock-on effect because Steam will use wishlisting in terms of how it ends up showing you new stuff. And in terms of how wishlisting will also guide stuff into people's recommended, whether you're using the Steam, what's it called? Your here are 10 games you probably don't want to buy, but here they are.
Like Steam Queue?
Your discovery queue. Yeah. Like the reason my discovery queue is probably bad is because I don't wishlist enough stuff to tell it the stuff I want,
Also, sometimes that categorization is just like,
of course,
by genre in a way that is not always, that doesn't map cleanly.
Useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. So yeah, I think that there's a lot at the C3 that I'm still happy with. But and I guess I will say the Nintendo Direct pushed me into this was a pretty good E3 camp. Between that and just like if you go and look at the list of things coming out now on Game Pass, which again, time will tell if Game Pass is sustainable in any real way or if we're at the top of a classic Silicon Valley throw money at it until people get into it and then it never really stabilizes and becomes something that benefits everyone involved. Well, time will tell. It's hard for me to make a confident guess as to whether or not this is going to stabilize the way it seems like something like Netflix has as part of our daily lives, or if we will see a rug pulled out from under us as development teams, start to have to chase certain types of design. We've talked about this in the past. But for now, when I look at the list of just games coming out on Game Pass, which is, a huge percentage of the things shown at the Microsoft event, it's just like kind of incredible what a service or what an offer that is. Mm-hmm. When I can look at something like that Baldur's Gate game that's coming out, or it's not even called Baldur's Gate because it's just Dark Alliance, right? They kept Baldur's Gate out of their mouths because Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out or is in early access. Let's just call it Dark Alliance. I have no idea if that is actually true. I don't know what the behind the scenes was on how to name that. But like Dark Alliance is a game I probably wouldn't have bought that game. But I will play it on Game Pass with some friends.
Right.
Mm-hmm. If I'm being honest, I probably wasn't going to buy Lemnis Gate, which is the time warping turn-based multiplayer combat strategy FPS. But you know what? I'll hit install on that in August and see what the hell that is. There's so many things that are coming to that service. That Microsoft event was also really strong. We already talked about that, so we don't need to continue. We should take a break, come back and talk about some of those demos that we played and some other stuff. So,
Did
you say no? Did you say like, no?
I said,
okay.
The shaggy hair Link with the bad arm and then the other Link with not the bad arm. what is happening there? Could that be Ganon? Are you traveling through time or some shit? I'm getting Ganon pilled as we speak.
There are times
I'm watching this trailer over and over
great.
again.
Good. Great. Are you sure that the blue Tunic Link doesn't have the bat arm?
It doesn't look like it. The arms are covered by the tunic and gauntlets. And so,
well, then definitely couldn't have.
I mean,
the bat arm under that tunic.
It could be, but the bat arm looks. I don't know.
I want this. I want the thing you're saying so bad.
Well, it's like
really,
also
truly
like
do.
They only
does he have the? Here's a question. Does he have the Sheikah Slate?
You see him throw the use the Sheikah Slate to do that stasis thing where it rewinds the spike.
No, you don't.
Ball.
You don't. That's not true. He doesn't use the Sheikah Slate to do that. He does the arm. That's the future. That's the in our new world in which we're saying one of these is the past and one of these is the future. He just reaches out his arm to do that. He's not holding the Sheikah Slate when he does it, right? I don't think so.
Okay, no, I think you're right. Ooh, no, you're right.
There's no Sheikah Slate there.
That's just a hand.
Listen, I've watched this trailer a bunch. That's just a hand.
God damn it! It feels like two different things, though, right? It feels like there's something going on here about the Link with the shaggy hair and the arm that's visible, and the Link that's on the
guard
ground.
Your heart, Cado.
Look,
do you remember do you need me to send you a video of all of the different hair that was already in Breath of the Wild?
No, I know. I remember.
Okay.
But there's something different about it's a different hairstyle, but it's the same amount of hair. This is like a different whole business, I feel like.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to make you two do this in your Zelda podcast. We're going to a break.
Let's come to a break. I'm looking at all the different costumes right now, and there was already a ton of costume diversity, but included hair diversity. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, but you see where the hair comes from in all of these, right? It's up in different ways. It's in different sorts of little ponytails and
now
buns
it's down,
and such.
And she hasn't.
And then it's down
it's
down and long in a way that feels like that's too much hair. He got too much going on in the back there.
He always had long hair.
Does he have a mullet?
We played some
shots?
demos. We all played some demos of stuff. Is there anything non-demo-y that we want to talk about that's like out now for people to buy versus like, you could support a developer. Rob. Yeah, Rob. Hi.
Yeah, hi. I've been playing a fairly recently released game. Fuck you, Patrick. Called Siege Survival.
The energy.
Gloria
I want to
Victis.
hold on.
Patrick was being sincere, right?
I was being sincere.
No.
And let's be clear. Let's go. Let's use my Sheikah Slate. Rewind the time.
Majora's Mask sound, or not Majora's Mask. Twilight Princess sound. Yeah.
Well, there was that sound in the trailer, right?
Yeah, there was. Play it backwards or forwards.
Into our Slack where we said, "Hey, what are people playing?" So Austin can prep mentally for the podcast.
Yeah.
And there's transitions and yada. And, everyone does their thing. Rob lists off 3 games, one in which includes an LOL. I don't know what for. He can unpack that LOL for me. But looked like 3 strategy games. And I said, when Rob went home. And that was just like a friendly tease. And then at the end, following up, and something newish. And you even said newish. So just slow your roll. That's fine. We had a lot going on in the last couple of weeks. We haven't always, been talking about all the games we're playing. So please, Rob. Actually, I've seen trailers for the Siege Survival game. I think they've come through my inbox. Tell me, what's up? What are you sieging?
You're not sieging anything. You are trying to survive.
You're surviving this. I guess that
survival.
is implied in the title.
Yeah. So, this is bordering on too reductive, but I think it's fair tonally. This is medieval This War of Mine.
Okay,
so
sure.
At the outset of the game, some sort of Viking type dudes come up, storm the castle, break through the walls, slaughter most of the inhabitants of the city, and then you begin help. A call for help is sent to the main capital or whatever, and you have to help a group of survivors hold out in the castle keep. So you're in the innermost defensive wall of the city. But most of the city has fallen. And so by day, you are hanging out in the keep, and you're like building equipment, materials. Again, various War of Mine. So like you build a garden plot. You will build like a drying rack for preserving food, or like turning fibers into like rope or something like that. But then by night, you will send people out into the city, and this is where it gets a little bit different from this War of Mine. This War of Mine was very, it was. You walked into different like scenes basically, and it was sort of a side scroller perspective. Yeah. This is probably owes a bit more to games like Commandos, like isometric stealth.
Yeah.
Vision cones, lots of that stuff. And the thing is, time progresses, so you only have a limited carrying capacity, and you got a limited amount of like night to work with, and then you got to get back to your bolt hole and get back to base. But as you begin foraging further and further out, it gets harder to make that trek. There's a lot of like, because the city's been at war, there's a lot of like collapsed connections that you have to reopen using resources. And then the other thing is, you're not just building stuff to help your crew like stay healthy and fit during the siege. You also have to be repairing weapons and sending medicine to the remaining guards of the castle keep. And so that's kind of the thing, is you have a resource sink there that you have to keep topped up in order to survive like the next assault. And when an assault happens, arrows come over the wall. They'll probably like damage your guys if they're in an area that gets hit by arrows. Trebuchets fire, like huge stones come over. It'll probably smash up some of your buildings. You have a limited amount of like space that's safe, like sort of in the shadow of like the keep wall. But if you're in the middle part of the courtyard, anything you build there could be hit. So you have to like watch out for that. And I think like it's a good one of these. I think it has the same problems that maybe you like if the loop of this War of Mine got a little tired, as you played that, this doesn't solve any of those problems. I would say like it's kind of warts and all. I think the foraging, the stealth is probably maybe a little more interesting or works a little better than this War of Mine, but also it may not have as memorable a setting as this War of Mine. Like you go to different places in this War of Mine, it has there's some places that have a completely different vibe, right? Here, it's all, it's another broken down piece of castle that I'm going to inspect. And so I think that can be a little bit repetitive. Still, it's satisfying in the way these types of survival games are, right? Where it's like you're going out there and you're thinking, what am I going to upgrade to like play more efficiently? Do I need these resources for upgrading like my infrastructure for like holding out, or do I need to like put this directly into the hands of soldiers or into like the mouths of my survivors who need to eat and keep energy levels up? Because they are like they have many different like meters, right? So like they get thirsty, they get hungry. You got to keep them all topped up on rest and supplies. Otherwise, like they will just drop dead from exhaustion. So they can only be pushed so far. It's cool. Like there's something so compelling about these types of survival games. You kind like, even if you're not like having the best time, where it's like, oh, this is amazing. Something about the arc of like, oh, I need to go out and like hoard little supplies. This does that really well, and I'm enjoying it.
Awesome.
I want to imagine that like you're playing this game and it's somehow also connected to a Chivalry 2 match that is happening beneath it, where there are just hundreds of people just lopping off their arms and heads. While
our castle was defended by you for sure.
Patrick was kind of good at Chivalry 2 off the cut, like just right away.
Up until the moment where I had to pick up and do an objective of like, I remember Rob very specifically calling out me accidentally picking up like a pile of wood to create, I believe, a ladder, and I just chucking it at the ground.
I will also say though, in what world do you have a piece of ladder that's 2 steps. And we're like, we're gonna bring little tiny fence-sized pieces of ladder over to the wall and like assemble them. What? No.
Yeah.
That ain't how ladders work.
We should play more of that. We should play that with a group. That seems very fun.
Yeah.
We did for people who missed it. We did a little bit of that during our E3 event. Some demos I want to shout out. Patrick, you played the Sable demo, right?
Yeah, I played a bunch of demos this week. I treated this week as like, all right, what would I have normally done this
Taking
week?
Those
totally
meetings.
Yeah, I've seen people who are like, post E3, don't want to touch a game. And I was like, well, I get that, totally valid feeling. But I was like, I'm gonna arrive there a couple of days later and just treat the rest of this week as playing a bunch of. There's a bunch of great stuff on Steam now, and then also a bunch of stuff on Xbox. But I think you and I have been playing a bunch of these.
And we should. Sable Xbox. Is on both Xbox and on Steam. It's on Steam also.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I played it on PC. Sable is a game that I first played a few years ago at a Judges Week event. It was very raw. It was, wow, we got the tech working. We got some great visual design. We don't have frame rate yet. The frame rate where it is now is much better than where it was when I first saw it, which I know some people are like, people on PC are like, unlock it. It's at 30. I want it at 60. Let me go as high as I can. But compared to where it was when I saw it years ago, much better now.
Well, it's interesting because it has, even on Xbox, like the Series X, it's locked at 30, but it does kind of I don't know what the technical term is, but like, I know this is popularized in the imaginations of people because of a movie like Into the Spider-Verse, where like the animation isn't completely smooth. Like it looks like it's skipping frames to a certain degree. And like, that's a lot of what's happening in like the animation of the main character. So it creates like a weird brain loop of like, it's an extremely smooth locked 30, but also the animation, it isn't completely smooth in the way that we've been accustomed when we say, oh, a game looks like a cartoon,
right. Yes.
Or looks like an animated show or a graphic novel or like whatever. Like this aesthetic is playing in that same space, but then it's also playing with actually the amount of it's intentionally not as smooth as it could be on the animation front because it's trying to evoke a certain atmosphere, like what I think is really effective. And look, if the game comes out and it caps you at 30, like there'll be a mod.
I promise.
2 seconds later that lets you unlock that
like, INI file somewhere you can edit.
Yeah.
I'm watching the trailer for this game now, and people should go watch the trailer for Sable, just to like get what the vibe is. It's a brightly colored exploration adventure game in which you are, and I mean the demo is you literally going out into this area around your kind of fantasy post-apocalyptic clans, little camp to try to find the pieces to build your own hover bike.
You know what it reminded me of?
What did it remind you of?
It felt like, people always say like, oh, the Star Wars universe is so vast. Like, it would be nice if you spent time in the places that weren't about these great, escapades of the Jedi.
This is just your
Sable. Sable feels like I'm just on a desert planet. Like it feels very Star Wars-y in the way that there are crash starships that you're like pulling, pieces of junk off of to build. There's like a line in the game that was like very good of like, building new from the old, or I'm butchering the well-crafted line, but like something like that. And it definitely felt like I was playing, like it had a strong like lived-in Star Wars vibe to the game, even if
you'll find like old, there's a dam that you go to that looks like that literally does just look like a Star Wars shield generator, with kind of huge like kind of circular discs. There's really cool, just really great looking stuff. The thing I was going to say is you can go watch this trailer. The trailer is beautiful. I've seen this. I've played this game before. I've seen trailers for years. I was watching GIFs of this forever ago. There was something about seeing it running on your screen and the way it's breathtaking. The crispness of it is a game that I'm sure you could probably play over the cloud. Like it would be fine. But boy, there is, and like the Twitter compression killed it when I like shared a screenshot where I was just like marveling and moving the analog stick and seeing it on. It was probably one of the few instances where I fully appreciated like what 4K can like provide to a picture, which is like the sharpness to that aesthetic on like the screen as opposed to seeing a compressed trailer or a screenshot was just, it was unreal. Like, I mean, it's hard to be like stopped in your tracks where like you do the goofy thing of like, I'm going to just rotate
the analog stick. And I did that in this game. And it's really, I think you're right to tell people to try and experience it for themselves, because I think it is difficult to fully articulate that sensation when we are awash in games that look incredible, and we frequently find ourselves without the vocabulary. I think because lots of us don't have art backgrounds. I've seen this feeling go around on Twitter when people are trying to describe a game like a Sable or whatever, and we end up falling into the trap of saying, oh, it looks really impressive or it looks amazing, and I don't know, it looks like a cartoon. We just kind of lack or need to grow that vocabulary. But I think the shorthand of what you're describing, go look at it for yourself on your own monitor, whether it's 4K or otherwise. Just seeing it there, it is truly something else that the screenshots and trailers do not fully evoke until you have it in front for yourself.
Even just watching gameplay, IGN did a 13-minute gameplay video of this before E3 that showed some of what was going on here. It is hard to talk about because I think as critics, we like to. I'm proud of my ability to try to translate what my experience is to someone who's reading or listening to my words. But I think there is something about this that I don't quite have the words for yet, and I'm not sure. I don't know why. But there is something about the way the smoke billows out the back of your bike, the way the hills have this are marked with this very light black outline that produce a horizon effect. The way that you float down after you get a glide power pretty early on that again in gameplay videos it kind of looks goofy, but in play there is something really magical about the sound and the look of that stuff, and it's all situated inside of a world that has a lot of life and humanity in it,
despite being a desert.
Despite being a desert, there are kids running around and playing, and you gotta go
hiding my goddamn.
Did you find Did you just
adapters.
Cheat and find the part, or did you get the Beatles?
No, I sort of. This game comes out in September. I played 45 minutes of it, and there's it seems like there's probably a couple hours of game here if you wanted to keep going down it, and at a certain level is I'm good. I have now experienced.
Dude, it cuts off right as you get
the parts that
as you build the bike, and then the camera zooms back and the Japanese breakfast song hits, and it's just fuck, let me ride this bike. I made a new bike.
I know.
Let me ride this bike.
As soon as they said that was the 3-part quest you're on, I was oh, that's going to be where the demo.
So wait, when is this out?
September
23rd.
I'm very ready for it. I had a blast playing it. People should go play it themselves if they can.
It feels very good. I'm very excited. Early on, the orb that surrounds yourself, which is kind of your glider floating mechanic. One, I fucking love that it doesn't run out. It's just just jump, you just go into an orb, and it's just boom.
Yep.
You just work your way really far across an environment. And if you're getting that, I presume this is probably fairly actually is early situated in the game.
This seems like the opening. This seems like
I don't know if it's the opening. Maybe we're missing some setup, but it's very early in the game where you're leaving your kind of clan behind, your family behind.
You're going on your gliding, which seems to be a cultural
rite of passage sort of thing as you become an adult. And I that makes me excited for what other
I'm very curious.
What other, if you're giving me that early on, what other movement abilities are there? Yeah, it's just a truly a delight to look at, and I'm glad that it is not uncommon for a game to be announced years ago with such a striking look that when we loop around to this point, what we're still talking about is it looks really striking. How about that look?
Yeah,
and what you're hoping for is that the rest of the game part, the playing, starts to match up with that. And I found the writing to be really sharp and interesting, and it made me excited to play the game part, which is it's not just a bunch of GIFs. It's not just a good trailer.
Yeah.
I don't know, how great the game will be. I'm only just leaving that open because, only played an hour, but it made me excited for what it has become as a game, and more than just something to gawk at. And that's really satisfying that game has come this far.
Yeah, totally. I'm looking forward to it. It's very high on my list. What else did you play? Anyone else play a demo that they want to bring up?
Yeah. I just finished it right before this, which is my reference to the Flesh Nexus, which is Death Trash. On one of our streams, we watched a brief trailer. I don't watch that trailer. It is not wrong about what that game is, but it's old, and I feel like is limiting in what. So Death Trash has been pitched as a throwback to like Fallout 1 and 2 specifically, in the sense of like, or Wasteland. Here is a large open space. There are stories, there are quests, there are characters, but also like you have the ability to kill every NPC, and you can just keep moving along, and the game will either adapt or things will disappear. It is similarly, it's like, how do I evoke to you that these are some of the most gorgeous pixels I've seen? I don't know. I've tweeted screenshots. I go watch a trailer, kind of play it yourself. Like there is a depth and a detail to the pixels that it's the kind of thing where it's like, if this game came to Switch, I don't know that I would want to play it there. You could, and it would be fine. But like seeing it on my big TV was gorgeous. The setup for the world is you are down in some sort of, humanity bunker. And then you're kicked out. They have detected some sort of anomaly, contamination in you. And the robots are like, the robots to sort of like maintain this place. You don't like start seeing the other humans. I don't know what this like underground facility is like. The game opens with like, get out, go to the surface and good luck. And you go to the surface and the flesh has taken over the world. There are just big piles of goopy, pixelated flesh. It has caused infections. It has caused sort of mutations.
So the synthetic meat industry went all the way bad.
I guess so. Yeah. And like you're out there and gotta kind of find your way. Like the game doesn't really guide you down the path of like of its promise in like the broader sense of like, hey, you could just kind of fuck around with this world and do whatever you want. You very much can't. It sounds like that's probably something you could do, but also there's just like quests to follow and like things to shoot and things to gather, and it just sets up a really interesting world where your character has some sort of connection to the flesh. I would just recommend people checking out the demo. It's very pretty, very evocative. It goes into early access in August, I believe. So it's like pretty far off. I think the developer has said, optimistically, maybe the end of next year, but most likely a little beyond that. But if you're like looking for a taste of the flesh, the demo is like a nice hour where you can kind of screw around, and then you hit an end point and they're like, all right, well, I guess if you just want to go shoot up everything and like see how the game reacts, you can kind of mess around with it from there. That's Death Trash. Very, very cool looking game, but even if it's far off, it's high on my radar for something in the future.
Yeah.
I have a really quick one. I just wanted to shout out Naraka Blade Point, because they're having their final beta right now. So as you're listening to this, up until the 22nd, I spoke about this when they had like another alpha. It's the battle royale, melee based battle royale game that was really fun. And so if you were curious about that and didn't get to try it in the last beta, there's a beta now until the 22nd. So check that out.
I played They Always Run, which I mentioned briefly on the last podcast.
Oh, right.
There's like a pretty sizable demo of that. I want to say that was like, I expected it to be like 20 minutes, and it was like 45 minutes now or something like that. It is a 2D action adventure game in which you are a mutant bounty hunter. Your mutation seems to be a larger cultural mutation, which some people have third arms, which allows you to wield a fucking sick punch to knock people out or to like punch past their defenses. It feels like it's in the vein of something like a flashback or an Out of This World in terms of being like highly stylized 2D action, animation, but like way sicker because you're doing all sorts of like melee counters and
how does that combat feel?
Pretty good. There's a really smart tutorial that walks you through like, here is what your buttons are. I mean, you actually see the tutorial about
there's
a
little Mark of the Ninja in this game.
A little bit. There's not that much stealth in the level I played. There's a little bit of it in terms of
I just mean in terms of sort of like the how you're jumping around, the combat. I guess I don't mean like moment to moment mechanically, but I look at this and like seeing the main character, yank somebody's leg underneath the vent and then stab
100%.
Like, all right.
That part is like that. It's very basic. X is your melee attack. Y is your block. Or like not even block. It's like a parry. It's like if you see an attack come in that's blue, that is parryable. If you see an attack that's red, you should hit B to roll past it, right? And so it's a very rhythmic combat. When you're in combat with like 5 or 6 dudes, like you're very much like, okay, wait for those for some attacks to come in, hit the button to counter. If multiples come in at once, you can counter, I think, up to 3 attacks at once, which is very fun because you have this mutant arm. And it was a really fun, the demo is basically you're out to try to like get this particular bounty, to get some information from him. And the tutorial is just like being jumped in the bar where you're looking for information and like slow motion kind of going through as you dispatch all the guys who are coming after you. And then it's you going through like the underground secret base that's under the bar and chasing this guy down. And it's all just very cool. And then at the end, you go to turn this dude in. And when you do, 2 things happen that make me like, okay, there's some stuff going on here. One is, you can either, I think narratively you have to turn him you can turn him in dead or alive. If you capture him live, you gain points with the cops. If you turn him in dead, you gain points with the mafia. And then you turn him to some sort of mafia lord because he can help decode something in a chip in his arm. It's a very sci-fi Western feel. Again, this could be happening off to the side in Star Wars somewhere. And you turn him into like the crime lord, and the crime lord, gives you some information from his like arm chip or whatever. And then your mafia reputation goes up higher. And I'm very curious what those 2 reputation meters end up doing. 1, 2. You also then go to a vendor to buy a gun. I played through the whole demo is just with melee weapons, but you do unlock a gun. But also inside of that black market, there's like 1 billion upgrades for things like, when you land on enemies, do damage to their heads. If you jump on enemies, do damage to their heads. If you like extra other mobility options, various like shock weapons versus bullet weapon, like all sorts of stuff going on in terms of cool abilities. Lots, like way more in terms of character customization than I thought there would be. And playing this level, it was like, oh, this is a very straightforward, linear action game that's going to like be a kind of fun spectacle to run through and clear these rooms. But seeing all of those different abilities made me go like, your playthrough and my playthrough might end up being very different feeling based on which of these we buy. I mean, there are dozens of different options to pick from various categories. So like, again, lots of opportunities to make unique character customization options. I want to say it's from a Russian studio. I don't know. Yeah, it's from a Russian studio called Alawar, Alawar Premium. I don't know if they've made anything else before. It seems like they've made some other stuff before. I really enjoyed it, and I'm very, very curious to see what they make, what this actually looks like when it comes out. I don't think that there's a date on it.
It's 2021.
Is it 2021? Okay.
The Steam page.
That's exciting. It's on my wish list now because I really had a good time with it.
And at least with, lots of things can happen, but
of course,
if we've learned anything over COVID, like indie studios are a little more capable of like hitting even a vague release date more than the bigger games. But I also, just one of the best names in a while. Like they always run immediately.
Great.
Just evokes a
there's
lot.
Also there's a lot of doesn't come through in the demo, but like you're on a call with your handler basically, who's like giving you information and hacking into stuff for you and stuff like that. And the banter was really good. There's a whole segment where you find another, like maybe another bounty hunter, definitely another mutant, 3-arm mutant, and you get a little flashback to like when he got killed by this like group that you're taking down, and that stuff was all really good. Like it's one of those things where like it's clear there is a lore Bible that is influencing the world, but no one is just reading to you from the lore Bible. Everyone is just like in the world and talking about this stuff in that way. And there's like some fun dialogue options, which I did not expect at all. Like that style of nothing that I think it didn't feel like there's like branching paths. So I guess maybe there will be with the idea of like, do you want to fight this boss to knock him out or to kill him? Maybe that stuff will branch in that way. But I just had a really good time. It was like one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm really glad I saw this trailer and downloaded this thing because it would have completely passed me by in a busier E3. And an E3 where we were out watching, going to game demos and stuff instead of watching all of these events. I probably would have
been the quintessential. You're waiting in line. You're like,
yes,
you got 20 minutes before your Xbox Halo appointment.
Yes,
and they have a bunch of kiosks near the press desk that are kind of out of the way, so they don't get as much foot traffic. And you're like, what the shit is that?
Yeah.
I remember that. I want to play that. And then you come back.
I have another one that's very much like that, which is because I can imagine the situation where I would have seen it and be like, hey, that looks like an old Fire Emblem game. There's a game that just came out. It was announced and then just dropped right after called Dark Deity. That is, here's how I will best sum it up. There is a post on the Steam forums that is called God, where is it? I think it was just called something like "This is a Fire Emblem clone," or something like that. Yeah, here it is. This is straight up a Fire Emblem clone. The combat animations, bonding, nomenclature, interface, that is pretty scummy. And then the top response to it was, just buy Fire Emblem on PC then. Which you cannot do because it is not on PC, motherfucker. It is I'll link to y'all to a trailer for it. It is like a love letter to Fire Emblem as best as there could be. The Fire Emblem games that I first started playing, which were like I don't know what the actual subtitle is, but the Fire Emblem that came to GBA was my first Fire Emblem. I guess that wasn't the Blazing Blade. I don't know what, maybe it was. Whatever that first one was that came out. I guess that was, yeah, the one with Lynn. Where like, my entry to Fire Emblem was incredible 2D sprites doing cool attacks to one another, and very difficult or very, very challenging combat tactics where you have to be very thoughtful about where you're moving your characters. This is that. It is pretty straightforward in terms of the narrative. You're playing as like a group, like the graduating class of a combat school, of an elite combat school.
Love it.
And you're all best friends. And the king, who is egotistical and driving into it sounds like a war that he just shouldn't be doing, has decided to immediately draft everyone from your combat school, including the non-graduates, into the front lines. And on the way to the front lines, you stumble into a big, supernatural nightmare where there is also some ancient warlock shit going on. And then yeah, it's kind of a Fire Emblem. You promote your characters when you hit level 10. You are deciding, do you want to move them into the magic class that has some armor and you lose some mobility, or put them on a horse where they get extra mobility but are maybe a little squishier. All of the combat, all of the levels are very authored in terms of like, they don't necessarily feel like they have a solution, but they do have like, okay, this is the one where there are these two narrow hallways, and I need to be ready to have someone block that choke point and have ranged characters behind them so that they can kind of snipe over and get whoever's coming down that choke point. All of the animations look sick. Like, there are, I guess to start out with, some of them are kind of boring, but by the time you start getting your magic characters or you start leveling people up into like the duelist classes and stuff like that, all the animations end up looking very cool. So much of the joy of these games for me is, and I think you miss some of this in the 3D Fire Emblem games, which I also like quite a bit. But in the 2D ones, the ways in which you're just like, yo, look at how that duelist did a sick backflip slash on the critical. All that stuff is here. The magic classes have a bunch of different things, and there are some things that are unique. If you've played the Fire Emblem games, you know that sometimes you get different classes of weapon where you'll be like, okay, this one has a higher chance to hit, but it isn't as strong. Or here's one that has a high crit chance, but its accuracy is actually not that high. But if it hits, there's a good chance you're going to hit that hard crit. And in every character just comes pre-equipped with 4 types of weapon, basically, in this game. And whenever you do an attack, you're picking which of those 4 types of weapon you want to use in any given exchange. And you're kind of equipping that, so that is also the weapon you'll have if you get attacked on defense. And so you might pick one that's like a very defensive weapon that lowers. This is what I'll do is like I'll put my thief in a choke point and then have her with the most defensive weapon she can have, which gives her a better chance to dodge, and she can just like take on all comers, dodging all those attacks and countering to like weaken them for my next turn, where I'll come in and clean them up with other ranged attackers or whatever. That stuff is really cool. I don't know that it has the like precision design of the best Fire Emblem games. I do think there are some exploits here. You could very much just like set up a character to get hurt and then infinitely heal them with your healers to just grind out XP, because unlike Fire Emblem, your weapons don't break. One of the key things in Fire Emblem's designs is that your weapons break with use. And so you can't just like plant a cleric down and have them heal constantly as one bandit chips away at your party. You could totally just do that here on certain levels. Anyway, some levels have like a time limit or a turn limit, so you can't do that. But there are levels that don't have a turn limit, and you can just be like, I'm going to set up here and just get a max level cleric right out the gate. But just don't do that. Meet the game halfway. Don't do that. Play the game straight. And I'm really enjoying it. I think it has some really cool world building stuff out the gate that has been really fun. And I'm a couple hours into it. I'm a few hours into it and have enjoyed. I'm 4 hours into it. There we go. I went from a couple to a few to 4. And it has been a blast. It's called Dark Deity. I like it when something shows up at Switch and then at E3 and then just drops. This was my it dropped and it's out right now of the show. So Dark Deity. Any other stuff we want to, Patrick? You played Tunic, right? I'm curious.
I briefly played Tunic, which has been. It's not wrong to like reduce it to like kind of like evoking the original Zelda with a little bit of Dark Souls flavor thrown in. You have things like a stamina meter. You die pretty quickly. That sort of thing. There's definitely that flavor going on in the game, but there's demo out on. I think it's only on Xbox at the moment. But yeah, you play this little fox. It's got like a very, I don't know what they even call the aesthetic. It's been I mean, it's cartoony, but it's not like cell shaded. I don't know. We're running out of Patrick's art vocabulary is like quickly hitting its it's like max, but it's like it's an overhead playing a cartoony fox. Like, yeah. I'm not really sure what's going on in this world. One of the things that I'll say that I really like about it, there's a bunch of things I really like about it. I think it plays really well, looks really cool. The menu screens are really trying to evoke the paper instruction manuals of an NES game. Yep. So when you hit start or whatever those goofy ass buttons are called on the Xbox controller that I will never ever remember. Oh, the one with the 2 windows. Sure. All right. I'll touch that one.
Yeah.
When you pull those up, like where it shows like what the buttons do and how those fill in as you get new abilities, very much are like kind of crinkly paper, those exaggerated comic booky illustrations that you got in when you bought The Legend of Zelda or a lot of other games from the 80s or early 90s. It's very cool. I
want to say I asked the developer about those years ago when I first saw this.
Yeah, you saw this a couple years back. I remember.
I want to say one of the questions I asked him was like, are there secrets in there? Because sometimes there'd be a secret or a code in the instruction manual.
Well, this game has some fezzy shit going on to illustrate when you start the demo. Like I forget the object, but you're the first object you're gonna go interact with. I can't remember if it's picking up a weapon or whatever. It sort of doesn't matter. But like the first thing you interact with, you hit like the interact button. You see the prompt. It's like X or A or whatever, and then like a dialogue screen shows up and it says like okay or no, but the dialogue, what you should be reading, indecipherable. It is a different language. You don't know what you're saying okay or no to, and you're definitely supposed to say okay and move forward. But right off the bat, the game is sort of like giving you like a very direct flavor of like the world you're about to enter, which I think again is really trying to evoke that original Zelda in a different way than like how like Breath of the Wild, like, you know, tried to evoke that same sense of exploration and atmosphere. This one is doing it in a like kind of a denser, also like similar sort of like a structural setup of you like exploring an open space, lots of mystery, and in this case extending it in a Fez-like fashion to you not knowing what the language is. I don't know if you'll be collecting runes or I don't know how.
Or you'll just have to learn that language.
You'll just have to learn it. It's not communicated in the demo
right.
how exactly that's going to work. But that was a design choice that like really tickled my brain. To do it immediately, it's like most games, you know. And again, I don't know how this game will be set up when it eventually comes out. Maybe this will not be the first interaction you have. But I kind of hope that it maintains that, because there was something really delightful in like, all right, time to do your tutorial stuff, game. Like, tell me how it works. And it just says, it's like, no, you don't know what this says. You don't know what you're agreeing to, but you do think you should probably like say yes to it. And it's like, all right. And there's definitely, and there's more of that as you go forward, where you will constantly sort of encounter signs or other things in the world that you just don't know like what it says or why it says it. And I found that part to be very cool. So yeah, it's a pretty short demo. I think it's only like half an hour, but yeah, Tunic. That gives development for a while. So I feel like is that coming out this year? I feel like they might have said Tunic release day. I feel like that they might have announced that. 2021. So yeah, sometime this year.
That's soon.
It felt the slice that they had, you know, felt very polished and complete. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing more of that.
So cool. I did play one small tactics game, Project Haven.
Oh yeah, how is that? I saw that going around.
Yeah, it's super rough right now, is what I would say. It's got it's strange. I think my tolerance for looseness in terms of like the way tactical game feels is just like on the floor at this point. I like things have to feel really readable, and I really want the controls to feel like I am not doing a lot of interpretive work trying to figure out like what's going to happen.
This was both of our problems with Phantom Doctrine a few years ago. Yeah,
and this has strong Phantom Doctrine vibes in some ways, like similarly really strong presentation. Game looks really cool. You know, it's building itself as sort of a Jagged Alliance successor, which is interesting because there really hasn't been one, but also every attempt to recapture Jagged Alliance has basically been an abysmal failure. Like there's Jagged Alliance 2, and then there's like 20 years of like really poor imitations. And I don't know why that is. Like Jagged Alliance 2 and like original XCOM both seem to really defy modern sensibilities to convert. The tack this game takes is so for one thing, it feels like it's going to be one of those mercenary type sim, like mercenary, like small business sim type games. But maybe not in the Jagged Alliance way, where Jagged Alliance 2 way, where you're like liberating an entire country and you're fighting it on a meta map. This seems like you go back to an HQ and you select your next mission. And like different stories may advance as you work with different characters, but by and large, it's the vibe is very much like what if the staff of a hipster tattoo parlor went into international mercenary work. That's kind of
Seems
that's
risky.
Kind of the vibe. Yeah,
I feel like tattoos are probably more profitable and less risky. Maybe not as profitable. Maybe
not in this vaguely cyberpunky dystopian world. Maybe
Sure.
like they had the community center got closed down, the tattoo parlor got closed down, and now they just have to kill for money.
Sure, like you do.
Yeah, but they're going for a bit of like you banter with your squad. Like you've clearly split off from a larger gang. And now you're sort of striking out on your own. But in terms of like what you're doing in the missions, one thing they seem to be trying to get at is really granular movement. There's clearly a grid, but it's hard to figure out where it's sliced up. You move your little circle cursor and control your facing, and like each of these things tends to consume an action point. So like. It's got the Jagged Alliance thing where you hit space. This is not a Jagged Alliance thing, but the thing I'm about to describe is when a character is going to shoot, you hit space and you go to free aim mode.
Right.
Very Valkyria Chronicles.
Valkyria, yeah.
If you want to take a better shot, as in Jagged Alliance, you can spend more AP lining up that shot and converge, like basically tighten the circle of your aim on the target. However, you might think that circle is like the air range for the shot. Doesn't appear to be, because people can still just completely whiff. Like you'll see the round basically fly completely wide. So even though you're like tightening the cursor, it doesn't seem to imply that the precision is particularly higher, unless it's saying that where that shot hits will be in the circle if it hits.
Right.
So like, you know, with a sniper rifle, you will get a headshot if it hits, maybe. That's what's going on. But I don't know. And it was kind of unclear. How line of sight is going to work feels like it's a little unclear. They've gone for, again, this is very Jagged Alliance. We remember this in Phantom Doctrine, where like line of sight gets weird when you have grids where someone is in cover, and while they're in cover, their line of sight is completely blocked. And remember, Phantom Doctrine eventually released that like explainer that they draw line of sight from adjacent squares so that you have the effect of like people leaning out and like shooting, and they draw line of sight from there. Project Haven, and I think this is smart, their solution is you can have a character, you can give a lean command, but now your character's leaning out, and so if your turn ends while you're leaning, you got like upper body out of cover.
That's interesting.
That stuff's kind of cool. Having all those like prone kneeling position stuff, great, love it. But right now it just feels very, very loose. You'll see places that feel like I should be able to go there, and it feels like you can't quite get your cursor there, and so you're left with I can either put this person with their ass hanging completely out in like in open air, or they can take cover in a position that they can't see anything. So like, you know, the example would be, I want them to crouch and get to the front end of a car, right? So you're like leaning out around the front fender of the car. That space, the game can't quite see it, doesn't want to go there, so you have to post up like in the like against the body of the body of the car, the passenger compartment. But now you can't see through it, so you'll run into things like that. Sometimes you hit free aim, and just because of camera angle, your character can't see shit, and it feels like it's being calculated from where the camera is, but not from what would be sensible for where that character is. So it is so rough right now. It is tough to gauge where it'll come down, because like I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to apply a med kit. The inventory.
I'm watching some gameplay and it seems very cumbersome. The UI does, but also maybe you put in your 2 hours and suddenly you got it. You know what I mean? I'm not. Right. The Jagged Alliance UI probably seems cumbersome to people who are coming to it fresh. Now there's lots of options on a turn by turn basis. I do get that, but. Yeah. The thing that I do like is if they're bringing this in for a landing, I think the
room clearing might be really good. That's a really weird description, but like that game's got good room clearing.
I know what you mean. We both played and enjoyed parts of XCOM Chimera Squad, which again, very troubled in many ways.
And interior spaces are hard to get right in a lot of tactics games. But here, when you zoom all the way out, it goes to that Minority Report spider cam, where the spiders are crawling through, and you get the cutaway where you're looking down through rooms. That looks
they always
great. And the way, like, there's a point in the demo where you've got guys coming in behind you in an alley, but you have a secondary team posted up in one of the nearby apartment buildings. And so, like, you just send those people vaulting through the windows of the building into the side street next to the alley to flank them. That's got kind of a cool vibe where it's like, oh, like my SMG gunner just opened up from this little like sliding door basically and lit these guys up. They had no idea he was there. So it could have a really good sense of like urban warfare, I guess. Which fingers crossed. But the other thing is it wasn't clear what was placeholder. But I'm a little concerned about the art direction and the writing. Like, if it's going to be as chatty as this game is right now, I didn't particularly like the people I was hanging out with or like the vibe of the world. And it's weird. I think Jagged Alliance kind of gets grandfathered in as like everyone's like, oh, it's that character. I love this group of weirdos. When you play Jagged Alliance 2, I think there's a lot of shit that would not play if it came out today, where it's like, this voice acting sucks, this character sucks, but it's old and it's antique and it's charming and it's part of this masterpiece of a game, so we roll with it. Here, you don't have that pre-existing relationship, and so it's just like, oh yeah, this is the meathead archetype. I'm tired of that archetype. I wish you would talk less. Is that kind of the whole way through?
Yeah, that's rough. What was that called again? One more time?
Project Haven.
And that's in early access now.
Is it now?
Just a demo? That's just a demo.
I guess it's a demo.
That's just a demo. Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah, that's 2022, so they have time.
Yeah. That's and the fact that one of the missions ended with a survey where it's like, was that good? And I'm like,
right. Which good. I hope they get good feedback.
Yeah.
You know? All right. I feel like we did a show today. I feel like we got through a show. We're gonna do.
We're just you would punt to Stranger of Paradise next week.
Should we just do it next week? Both played that.
Stranger of Paradise.
We could do it next. We could do it on Monday.
Let's do that on Monday. Let's talk about.
That's give me time to beat the boss.
I did this morning, so
just hit circle a bunch. Just
no. I was saying give me time to beat the boss because I'm
giving you. You can't just hit
tips.
Circle to do phase 2. Can't just hit circle to do phase 2.
I basically did. I had no problem with it.
Wow! You used your magic.
I did. I used flare. I did level up my black mage.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. If you just did the sword,
wait, you hit a flare.
I did. I was also a top level warrior. So I mean,
so was I. But I mean, if
you hit a flare,
stop it.
I was a top level warrior
too. You just get to black mage.
No. I mean the delay animation on flare. That Garland.
You just got to find your window when he's casting Ice Blade or Fire Blade. You know that's an attack where he's stuck doing a
motherfucker still moves out of. I've tried.
You just got to hit the flare, and that's not like. I mean, the key is parrying as always. So I'm trying to LARP a shitty Dark Souls fan at this point. It's a hard fight. I lost that fight a lot.
Don't let Austin.
I do think for me the thing
he's being condescending to you.
Like I said, I'm LARPing a Dark Souls fan. A bad Dark Souls fan. The thing that clicked for me was learning, like forcing myself to stop trying, thinking that I could get through that without just parrying nonstop. And then the second thing is like being in, what is the awakened mode called in that thing?
Oh yeah, Lightbringer.
Yeah.
Be in Lightbringer mode 100% of the time. Just always go into Lightbringer mode in that fight.
I promise you that
Lightbringer mode. Lightbringer mode 100% changed that fight. I don't know if it gives you a little bit of super armor, but like you're getting hits in, you're able to recover the magic that you get. 100% of the time.
Also, his like stamina, the yellow gauge goes down
super fast. Yes,
we'll unpack all of this and set it up on a Monday podcast. This is just Cado tips so that he can come back.
Go into if you go into Lightbringer mode, that whole fight changes. That is my real.
To know. I keep forgetting that exists.
Yes, because I don't
think
all
your
necessarily.
MP, doesn't it? Like
You earn it back though in that time because you're landing so many parries.
If you are quite literally, if you hit parry that pushes them off, you activate
some extra hits in. I think we're gonna see speed runs of this game where you're just in Lightbringer mode the whole time.
At a certain point, when I was only doing phase 2, I was finishing phase 1 without getting hit once in like under a minute.
I'm to the point where I'm getting it's the last quarter of health that always gets me because by that point I've run out of potions. Both of my side characters are down, so they can never take aggro anymore. And he's just focusing me in that second phase. That's the bit I'm.
That second phase
you kind of need to take him out before your buddies die.
Having them up really helps.
Yes.
I mean, that's the actual answer is how I got off a flare was he was fighting them. And he's like, all right, guess what, dude? I'm going to punish you on this. We'll talk more about this.
On Monday,
On Monday.
Cool.
Or maybe, I guess, today when this podcast comes out, because we might do a demo stream.
Yeah, so. I think we should do a demo stream on today, on Friday. So look forward to that. Twitch.tv/Waypoint. I just saw a cool trailer for a game called Thymesia, Thymesia, maybe Thymesia. That looked like a sick roguelike. Or not roguelike, that's wrong.
I thought you were calling someone messy in like an old-timey Thymesia,
yeah. People should go check out the GameSpot Play for All streams. They've been pretty good too. All right, on that note, we'll wrap up today. We'll be back later today with the stream. And then back on Tuesday with another episode of Waypoint Radio. Shoutouts as always to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. Speaking of waypoint.zone, we should say here, one, you can go to waypointplus.com to subscribe to Waypoint Plus and support us. We also, over the weekend, rolled out annual subscriptions. You can get one by going, if you're already subscribed to Waypoint Plus, you can just go into your account and switch over to an annual. You can also go to waypoint.zone/annual to subscribe to directly to an annual subscription, or waypoint.zone/carrot, CARROT, to buy someone else, to gift someone a yearly subscription. We know a lot of people want to be able to do that at the yearly way because it's easier than re-upping a gift subscription every single month indefinitely. And the higher ups finally let us flip that switch and turn on annual subscriptions. Waypoint.zone/carrot for the gift one, waypoint.zone/annual, or just go into your subscription account and your settings and change that. Speaking of Waypoint Plus, Rob, that Waypoint 101 for L.A. Noire went up this week, right?
Yes, it did.
People should check that out.
Yeah, you should subscribe and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. The first of many things. And let me tell you, we are brainstorming a bunch of cool Waypoint Plus stuff at this point. Now that we have a vision of what's to come in terms of the next year and a half of games, it's very easy for us to start going, what if we did this ahead of that release? That seems like a fun tie-in. Oh, I've always wanted to do blank. So, please look forward to some cool stuff we got coming up. Whether we've fully conceived of it yet or not. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. You can support everything we do. Again, waypointplus.com, twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. Patrick, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Flesh Nexus at Patrick Klepek.
Cado.
Fighting Chaos? ? At a _Cado _appears.
At this point, if you don't finish it, you can't participate in the conversation.
Wow.
I might go through and beat it on hard. I don't even like it all that much, but I might just see. I'm curious what hard feels like. Rob.
Oh, see if you can feel something again?
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, how about you?
At Rob Zachney.
Rob Zachney on Twitter. Until later today, if you see us on the stream, or until next week, as always, fuck capitalism, go home, peace.